When you know what made you, when you know the truth of what made you, you discover the best that is within you. When you begin to understand that so much of what we do to do the right thing then funnels all of this money, funnels all of this power for those to use that are not necessarily for the greater good of all. They're discovering that half of the taxpayer dollars are being used for fraud, have been for a long time. And that's why there's such an uproar. People, some want to find out what is fraudulent so that they can correct it, and some don't want you to find out what is fraudulent because that goes into their pockets. So it's pervasive everywhere. When you don't know who you are, you fall for whatever somebody who knows that you don't know who you are wants to control you into supporting. This is why it's crucial that we come to have a direct relationship with our Creator. Because again, when you know what made you, when you know the truth of what made you, you discover the best that is within you. You begin to recognize that everybody on this planet, every living being has the seed within them, the essence within them of that goodness. And then you can begin to realize and recognize, because you become self-aware within you first, and you can become aware of it in everybody else. Anybody that does not operate from their innate goodness is operating from a faulty thought system that has them think that they're not who they are. So inside of us is the truth, and then there are all the blocks to the truth, all of the beliefs that we were taught, like I was, to be afraid of God, to be afraid of all these things that the Catholic religion instilled in me, and plus all the lies within the Latin culture that I grew up in. Men are better, and men get to do whatever they want to do, and women just have to do whatever they're supposed to do, because it's always about taking care of the patriarchy. So you've got the essence within every single one is the truth of who we are, covered up by layers of untruths. This journey, when you begin to feel like enough is enough, when you begin to move to that place where you have tried everything, drugs and alcohol and sexing and people pleasing or workaholic, being a workaholic, and you've made all the money and you still feel like you are not there yet, like you haven't achieved what it is that you're attempting to become, or you haven't numbed the discomfort that you are experiencing because you know that somehow that feels so uncomfortable. That's our innate signal. You're believing things that are not true. But because we're not taught to question what is not true, because we are growing up in the system that wants us to believe what's not true, that is what supports the system of corruption, the system of lies, the system of people giving their power away, people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for an image that they can't even control. When you begin to feel that longing within your heart and you're willing to risk whatever it takes, you're willing to stop your addiction, you're willing to stop the facade of working a job that you don't like, you're willing to stop being in a marriage where you're not happy. When you are willing to stop, to put an end to the pain, then you become open to what is the truth that will bring me to that place of joy. Let me tell you, friends, this is not an easy road, but it is very simple. You've got to be willing to question your thoughts. You've got to be willing to take a very introspective journey and come within, look at your beliefs, look at everything that tells you that you're not who you are, and then look at everything that you believe is true about who you are. Now, for a while, you're going to have your ego involved in all of it. But at some point, when you begin to look to become the observer, this is where the magic happens. You have to become the presence of awareness, the observer of your own thoughts. And then you have to, there's no other way. You have to put them into two buckets. That which feels loving, that which feels peaceful, and the thoughts and beliefs that feel uncomfortable, that cause your distress, your anxiety, your worry, your fears. You have to sort them out. Why? Because they're totally opposite to each other. That which is loving is what is natural and true about every single one of us. That which is fearful is unnatural, but it has been normalized. And it is what we have each been trained to think is who we are and how things go. When you sort these two things out, for a while, it is very startling because you're realizing, oh my gosh, I knew this was what I felt within me. I felt the yearning to experience life this way, to be kind, to be gentle, to follow my passion, to do what felt natural to me. But I didn't do those things because I was trying to do what I was told was right. This is normal. All of us have been normalized into believing things that are not true. Now, those who break free from that, those who begin to question things and begin to speak to this, they're labeled crazy, they're burnt at the stake, they are crucified. Many of them are called troublemakers. Some of them are put into insane asylums, and many are called conspiracy theorists because they're speaking to the truth that within every fiber of your being. But sometimes you can't quite prove it because this is a change that happens internally. And when you begin to feel the truth of that within you, it alters you. And here's a way that it alters you. It makes you feel peaceful. It makes you more joyful. It makes you more honest. It makes you more gentle. But it also makes you more courageous. It makes you more willing to stand up for what is true. It makes you like Jesus, willing to, okay, you can sacrifice me. Because when you come to understand the truth of who you are, you begin to recognize that you are an eternal being. What you are is made of pure energy, pure consciousness. And then you begin to move into the realms where you realize, oh my gosh, it's infinite, meaning it's pretty freaking vast. It's not just what happens in your own little life, in your own little community, in your own little planet, your own little world. This is universal. It's part of the universe of universes. And then you begin to realize just as God created me, imagined me into existence, it's imagined all kinds of things, all kinds of different civilizations and different planets and different beings and different, you can call them ETs, whatever you want to call them. God didn't just create humans. God's imagination is infinite. And all that God has created has been created from the same essence, which is love. And every single one of us, because what love does is love frees everything to be whatever it wants to experience, whatever it wants to experience. It cannot be anything other than love, but it can experience itself as not. That's the power of free will. When I began to understand this, that's when I began to realize, oh, so free will allows us to have the experience of believing that I'm separate from God, that I'm here as a human, that I can protect me, that I'm not connected to anybody else. After all, the church told me this group is good, this group is bad, so I can protect me. I can defend me from that other one. I can decide that I'm doing it the right way, so I'm better. And that satisfy the egoic need to be superior. So it has to make somebody else inferior. And if you grow up believing you're inferior because you're not the right kind, you're not the right color, you're not the right sex, you're not the right gender or whatever, then our minds become filled with this inequality that we begin to defend as the haves, the have-nots, the favored, the most favored people of God and those who are not. That mentality of duality, of dividing and segregating people into what is good and what is bad, is pure egoic. And we have the ability to do that because God loves us so much. Not that he gave his only son to die for us. That is all made up. God loves us so much that it allows each and every one of us to have whatever experience we want to have. Because God knows that we not be what we are, but we can pretend not to be that. And Jesus was just like you and me, a child of God who made the decision to have an experience of incarnation, knowing full well that for a little while it might forget some of the truth of who he is, but he came on a mission to do whatever he needed to do, was born to a family who reminded him of the truth of who he was, even though he was indoctrinated into the Jewish faith. And Jesus, at a very early age, felt that calling to do his mission. The mission was to show us the way, to show us that when you commit to sorting through the beliefs that are not true, you will inevitably reach the place where you will know the truth of who you are. You don't have to believe it, you will know it. And when you know it, you then know God. This is why Jesus said, I and the Father are one. He was trying to tell us, I and the Father are one, but so are you. These wonderful things conveniently left out. Don't you see the plan here, the plot? To keep humanity from knowing the truth of who they were, because it was going to put a lot of people out of a job. But the only people that were going to be out of a job were those who were trying to tell us that we're not who we are. Less than the 1%. And this is the place that humanity is at right now. We're afraid of those that we have been conditioned to believe that it is normal that they have power over us. But here's the thing, they're the most scared, because if we wake up and remember who we are and we are not following what they're telling us, guess what happens? We flip the 99%. Do you think 99% of humanity would have more power over 0.1%? We're talking billions versus maybe 100,000, if that. Really, those numbers are not that big. When you begin to realize that the only way humanity can be controlled is through fear, and fear is only possible through ignorance, and ignorance can only be sustainable through arrogance. And this is why we have been taught to believe that we are right. You know, this is normal. This is the way. And in our arrogance, we don't want to know the truth. And in our ignorance, we don't know the truth, so we remain in fear. But if something inside of you is getting activated, it is, you can feel that the things don't make sense. You can see the lies that are being perpetuated in all systems, education and medical. How is it? Please tell me, how is it that if we have all of the scientific prowess that we supposedly have, and we've raised so much money, how is it that we don't have the cure for cancer yet? But if we look back through history, we will find those who actually were curing people from cancer. And somehow those systems were not made widely available to the public. As a matter of fact, they were bought by Big Pharma and thrown into some drawer somewhere. You know, when an organization deliberately withholds what makes people better, when a religion deliberately withholds the truths that set us free, when a government deliberately withholds the information that says that, yeah, you guys are working really hard, we're using most of your money to put it in our pockets instead of doing good things for you. When we become courageous enough to move past our arrogance, I already know it all, and begin to humble ourselves to question, okay, there's got to be another way, we will begin to have to face our fears, because those will become the obstacles that we must move through. And those fears are nothing but, we've heard the acronym of FEAR, false evidence appearing real. It's false evidence because it's made up. That's why it's false. And as you begin to move through your fears, as you begin to do the thing that you thought you couldn't do, as you begin to move through speaking your mind when you used to be afraid not to, as you begin to question the establishment, as you begin to say, no, I'm not going to participate in that anymore. I'm watching people left and right. It's fascinating. Even doctors not paying for medical insurance. That's something I started doing 8 or 9 years ago. It was like, this is a racket. I'm not participating in this. And at that time, it was like, if you don't have medical insurance, then you're going to be fined when you pay your taxes. I'm like, fine me. You can find me all you want. I am not contributing to something that I knew was unloving, was not of God, because I was already feeling the power of God. And God does not create anything that hurts a brother or a sister. So if it hurts somebody, if it benefits some and hurts others, it is man-made, because they're listening to the voice of their ego. Nothing that is loving will ever attempt to hurt a brother or a sister. But we have to move through the arrogance that I already know it all, and come to the place where we're willing to look at how ignorant we are about the truth that will set us free. That's why only truth, capital T truth, sets us free. Because when you know, you do different. You behave differently. You will not participate in anything that is confining you. Deliberately, you won't do it. You will only participate in that which liberates you.